Welcome to Talk Law Radio with attorney Todd Marquardt of the Marquardt Law Firm at marquardtlawfirm.com.
Welcome back to Talk Law Radio. I'm Todd Marquardt, on the radio, on podcasts, on Facebook Live, on YouTube, and on talklawradio.com. I'm here with Stephen Countryman from Frost Bank Trust Department today. And now it's time to talk about the sinners and saints. You know that song?
Oh, yeah.
So I talk about sinners and saints, somebody that's done something good and somebody that's done something bad. Today I just want to focus on Andrew Carnegie. I was thinking of a trust that established some benefit for society, even after he's gone, still today. Here's a quote. Carnegie believed in giving to the industrious and ambitious, not those who need everything done for them, but those who, being most anxious and able to help themselves, deserve and will be benefited by help from others. And so he built libraries while he was alive, and that continued. One of the things that I liked about his system, they call it the Carnegie formula. It required financial commitments for the maintenance and operation from the town that received the library. So I thought that was really great how he would provide money for building the library, but then he required buy-in from the community.
Well, and that legacy lives on in charitable trusts and donor-advised funds to this day. I mean, there's so many great tax advantages for it. So, the ultra-high net worth families, the tax exemption is so high right now, but it's going down soon. And a great way to avoid paying tax is everything over the exemption amount goes to a foundation that maybe you established during life. And we have a couple of those. Actually, we have over $1 billion under management for charitable foundations and trusts and funds, and we have one that's a scholarship fund. Over 300 applicants a year. There are certain requirements: have to be a Christian, have to be a Texas citizen, for lack of a better terms, resident of Texas, and a few other things. And it's mostly oil and gas funded, but that money goes to support dozens of kids every year, and it's 4 years. So if they don't use all 4 years, they can use it for grad school as well.
Okay.
And then we have another woman who recently passed and named Frost as trustee to take care of her trust for forever, and it is growing. It also has oil and gas interests, and she was a very shrewd woman and incredibly intelligent and incredibly giving, and we're using that money to support causes throughout the city per her guidance. And she gave us what's called a precatory list of charities to support. And we try to support those charities and do, but we can also support charities that are like-minded and that have great records in the community. And and we work with so many charities. We give a lot ourselves from Frost. We tend to have good relationships with board members and everything else. So we know who's on the up and up, who's doing good things for the city, and we're fortunate enough to be able to enable those charities through what she left behind.
Have you seen some lives benefited and changed?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the kids are the big one, of course. Kids who've had financial difficulties, parental difficulties, being able to be supported by a charitable trust, for example, is wonderful. But also, for kids who may have had difficulty, we do a lot of court-created trusts for somebody who was killed. The parents were killed, and the court names Frost as the trustee to take care of the kid until they reach a certain age. And we're able to use that money to make sure that they go to school, become productive members of society, pay taxes, not just become these trust fund babies that you hear about that don't do anything with their lives. That is far from our goal at Frost. We want to make sure these kids are productive. That's kind of our core tenet, honestly, as a trustee, is not to make people, just sit at home waiting for the check to come in the mail.
Yeah, but there's a lot of thought that goes into making distributions. We talked about the HIM standard and the the committee that does all that. But really, a trust could be written so that the distribution standard was, anything that's legal.
That's a great point, Todd. Yeah, I will. 90% of trusts have the HIM standard, but there are so many trusts that exist, 10% or more of our trusts that have unique provisions in there dealing with when to make distributions, when not to. Sometimes it's as simple as when they reach this age, you can buy a house for them. Sometimes it's if they can't pass a drug test, don't make any distributions. It gets very paternalistic, and we've seen it all, and we can manage it. But yes, trust can be. I mean, you hear stories about folks saying, "Well, if you become a nurse, you get this much. If you become a doctor, you get this much." I don't think we have any under management right now like that, but I wouldn't be surprised if one walked in the door and they started playing with ideas. Sometimes we have very sophisticated attorneys, estate planning attorneys, that are coming up with their own ideas either for their clients or for themselves, and saying, "I want to create a trust for my kids, and I'm going to make it pretty extensive in terms of what the language says and what Frost is allowed to do in terms of making distributions." And we're fine with that because most of our administrators are attorneys or people who've been in the area in this arena of estate administration and trust administration for decades. They know how to read the document and they know when it's appropriate and when it's not appropriate to make distributions. And of course, again, the fallback is the committee.
Yeah. So we talked about taking care of somebody, a special needs child. We talked about taking care of a spouse, or even taking care of the trust creator himself in time of his incapacity. But trusts are also useful for dealing with beneficiaries who might be addicted to drugs or alcohol or gambling or just not good with money.
That's right. And oftentimes people create these spendthrift trusts for their kids that are also creditor protected. It's a great benefit for creating a testamentary trust for your kids. Rather than giving the money outright to them, you can give the money to them in trust. And if they're sophisticated or you want to wait till they get a certain age, then you can name them as their own trustee, and they still get that protection so long as they keep the assets in there. Also separate property protections, right, in the event of divorce.
Right.
So those are great benefits for a trust. Now, if they can't handle it for themselves, if they just aren't financially sophisticated, then it's a great option to have a corporate fiduciary in there to make those decisions for them and make life easy. But yeah, I'm a big fan of, rather than giving money outright to anybody, even if they're fully trustworthy and they're great with finances, still put it in trust. Just name them the trustee of their own trust.
Right, because we've seen with the economy, the new normal now is that we don't know what's going to happen with the economy. I mean, through no fault of our own, we can be forced to stay home, to stop working, to or to have institutions stop working. So you want to have your inheritance protected from those types of setbacks.
That's right. And with the exemption amount coming down, it's very high, 13.6, whatever it is. But we expect it to go down here at the end of 2025.
Right, because Congress and the president would have to agree to extend that, and we haven't seen the Congress agree to do much.
No, they're good at doing nothing. And I will tell you, it's a low-hanging fruit. When you have, 30 plus trillion in national debt, and taxing dead people is a pretty low-hanging fruit for being able to start to recoup some of that. And whoever wins, the expectation is that could change. Obviously, one party is probably more in favor of changing it than, or I should say, letting the sundown provision occur. But either way, we need to be prepared. And for larger estates, visiting with your attorney to figure out how to avoid having to pay tax at your death, it's a smart move right now because we expect some changes here in the next year.
We want to talk about legacy because Marquardt Law Firm sponsors the show, and we focus on business and estate law, including last wills and living trusts. Can you talk about what your legacy might be, or something a legacy that you've inherited from those who have gone before you?
Well, so my legacy at Frost is I hope that I can just continue to inhibit this. To grow not inhibit, but grow this amazing goodwill that Frost has developed in the community. I'm hoping that that's my legacy is to just expand on this amazing company. It's not often that people get, romantic about a company. Not to say that that's how I feel, but it's been extremely supportive of me and my career, my family, and it's an institution here in town. So I hopefully that will be part of my legacy. Will be growing the bank and being a part of the community.
And then you could see all the new good things happening from new charitable trusts or new endowments new family foundations being grown.
That's right. We're doing a lot, and it tends to be the private investor, the individual, the charitable minded person that does a lot for the community, does the most for the community, and we tend to be the arbiters for that. And so I'm. It's a tough question thinking about legacy. I don't think about it as much as I probably should, and I wish I could give you a better answer about myself. I hope I do the same for this community. I'm a San Antonio native. My mother's family's been here since the Alamo.
Wow.
And I hope that I will be part of growing this community and making it a better place for my kids. And I think that's my hope for my legacy.
Good, great. Well, finding people that want to contribute back to society, to give back, to help the community, their state, their nation, and the world is hard to find. And so I ask everybody, who else do you want to give to? Do you want to give to charity? And, the people that say, what do I care? I'll be dead. Well, they're just not as fun for me to work with.
Yeah.
I love working through all those ideas of what could we do?
Well, there are some great charities in town, and I would love to plug Magdalena House and of course, Wounded Warriors, and we do a lot of work with the Area Foundation, and of course, the Area Foundation supports a lot of different causes itself. So there are a lot of really great charities in town, and I'm sure your listeners are charitable minded as well. And of course, we've got my brother's on the board for Magdalena House. Full disclosure, but we've been involved. My family and him and his wife have been involved with it since for over a decade, and it serves for women who are at risk, been trafficked, that sort of thing, and they've just been growing and doing so many great things. So anyway, I don't mean to make it all about that.
No, I think it's great. That's part of your family's legacy. That's exactly what I was looking for. Thank you for sharing that.
Of course, yeah.
So we've had a great show. Thank you for joining me. Hopefully we can do this again and dive deeper in some of these issues. Enjoyed talking about trusts and informing the audience about all the different kinds of assets and people that you help. So I appreciate you joining me today.
Thanks, Todd. I feel like there is still a lot to talk about, so I'd love to come back.
Great. So that's it for today. I'm Todd Marquardt. I'll talk to you later.
This has been Talk Law Radio with attorney Todd Marquardt, brought to you by the Marquardt Law Firm. You can learn more at marquardtlawfirm.com. And be sure to listen to the full Talk Law Radio show Saturday mornings at 11 on 9:30 a.m. The Answer.
Each week, attorney Todd Marquardt talks about the law. His mission with the Talk Law Radio show and podcast is to help you discover your legal issue blind spots. In the beginning, God had one law. Don't eat from the fruit of that tree. Then came the 10 Commandments. Now we have federal, state, and municipal lawmakers that won't stop creating new laws. Laws that might impact you without you knowing it. Listen to the show and drop a line on Facebook or email host@talklawradio.com and let the host know what you think of the show, the topics you want to hear, and whether you want to be a guest.